Donk Nation, Jackson, Janet, greetings and welcome to your daily dose of Donkey with Ginger. It's your boy, the Viking Donkey, bringing you the first nonsensical Steelers talk of 2024. Luckily, I'm not by myself. I'm still a little sick, so if you hear me cough, don't worry. I am surviving. Everything's good. But Gingy, welcome back, and let's have a little off the cusp, unrehearsed, no one knows where it's going type of talk. How's that sound?
That sounds good to me. I always like talking football, Donkey. Mutant Gingy in the house. What up?
Oh, you know, Gingy, it's Steelers time. There's nothing going on. Omar Khan reiterating that he has faith in Kenny Pickett, but at the same time saying there will be competition. I don't know how I feel about that. We had a little talk in our group chat this week about the Steelers ownership getting lambasted in the NFLPA's report, right? On how treatment of players is and facilities are. Me and you differed on this, as I feel, what they're saying had a lot of onus, and you were there like, they're spoiled little babies. And Gingy, you want to break that down a little bit?
I think both can be true.
Agreed.
I think both can be true in that statement. For example, yes, if every other team is getting all of these perks, then obviously the Steelers should too, right?
Yes,
and if we're grading
sure.
if we're grading $1 billion industry, right, where they just raised the salary cap by what, 33 million for every team?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm compliant, baby.
You know, when the Steelers are ranking behind a team like the Bengals, where everybody was making fun of them for having to walk, like across the busy street, for having to get to their practice facility and stuff, you don't want to rank behind that, Donkey. I know they got one now. But that was just a few years removed.
They're ripping into the Steelers' locker room facilities, and I have to assume these are the ones at the UPMC practice facility, because honestly, they're at the one in Heinz Field, 20 days a year at most. So I doubt those were the locker rooms they were complaining about. I'm sure they're complaining about the ones at UPMC Sports Center and all that stuff. And honestly, it's a bad look for the Steelers. I know the Chiefs ranked below us in ownership stuff, but if you look at those bottom 5 teams, those are teams that a lot of people complain about. And when you look at it, those are teams that don't draw in big name free agents. This stuff gets out there. The players talk about this stuff. Do you think that perhaps this is a hindrance in the Steelers? Because last year we lost out on a couple big-name free agents who signed, from what we understand, contracts that were less than what the Steelers offered to go somewhere else. I know we don't want to say this, but is there a chance that plays into it?
Yeah, I would have to say that's the main thing that plays into it, right, Donkey?
That or guaranteed playing time, things like that, we don't really know. But never a good thing when you're compared to your peers and you are the bottom of it. The one that gets me is childcare at games, and I understand why players are concerned about that, because if you're ever a parent and you're trying to get your kid into childcare, that shit ain't easy. Most of them are full. There's a lack of it around, and it's something that's such an easy fix, Gingy. That's what makes me mad, is some of these things are just simple fixes, and for the Steelers, it could even be a revenue generator, because I know some of the teams that offer childcare make the players pay for it, but at least the players, they know their kids are there near the stadium, near them, and they don't have to go out and find it. I mean, to me, that's the one that got me, because that is such a simple fix, such an easy fix, and at the end of the day, it's cheap. But man, this just, I hate to say this, but being cheap, not really putting a credence on extra performance later in the year. My Jesus, Gingy, I talked about this 2 years ago. Art Rooney is making me believe he wants the Steelers to become the Pittsburgh Pirates. Just make him money. That's all he wants. That's what it's really starting to feel like. And, I don't like it, Gingy. I don't like it.
That's not how you string together multiple playoff wins, right?
No.
You want to be able to attract good talent. That's the number one thing that I'm seeing there. Now, we do have high grade in coaching. There's a lot of word out there. Oh, that's because Tomlin's a buddy coach. I don't know, Donkey. I'm not in that locker room. It is, and
Tomlin certainly gets rid of anyone who doesn't fit in with him. So
yeah, that's right. So I don't know.
Because think about it. Who was the last player that talked bad on Mike Tomlin that made it through the season they talked bad at Mike Tomlin about? I mean,
Well, we'll see if we pick up Najee's option.
That's oh man, ooh, that's juicy. Because one, you should never pay a running back. Two, you should never pay a running back. Three, Christian McCaffrey's not a running back. Okay, that's how I want to state all of those facts. That's a juicy one. I like that. So straight up, if Najee Harris option is not picked up, we are full blown conspiracy theory here that if Mike Tomlin don't like you, you gone. Is that where we're at?
I think it becomes less of a theory and more of a reality at that point, Donkey. I don't know. I understand that we've been highly critical of Najee Harris at different times in the past, but if you look at the numbers,
I don't mind Najee Harris. I hate that he was a first-round draft pick. I'm going to stand on that forever. That dude is not worthy of a first-round draft pick. That dude's not a bad running back when he runs physical. However, that dude runs softer than the tissue I use to wipe my booty.
I bet you that's pretty soft, huh, too, Donkey.
Yeah, although I have to admit, dude, the last, 3 games of the year, that dude straight up ran like he was sandpaper, and that ain't going near my tushy. Just putting that out there. Straight up, that Najee shows up next year, I'm a happy man. I'm actually enjoying Gingy. This is really, really perfect for the nonsensical opener to this year. I mean, we don't know where we're going. I do have to give a special little call out here. Another Pittsburgh Steeler great has left this world. Former Army guy, left for a couple rounds. 16th round draft pick. One of the originators of the Steel Curtain, right, Gingy? I mean, watching all these guys who were legends, both legends when I grew up as a Steeler, they were the names people talked about. Watching all of them now start to pass away, it's a sad time, but Andy Russell joins that long list of those 60, 70 Steelers that are no longer with us. Sad to see him go. I think he was in his 80s, but from all accounts, a hell of a football player, huh? Steeler Ring of Honor inductee.
Rest in peace, Andy Russell, 82 years of age. Classic Steeler mentality. One in a long list of great backers.
So Gingy, there's a safety at the combine, and I just want to bring him up because he almost set a world record for broad jump and stuff. But I want to bring him up because the dude straight up, would you draft a guy who seems to be out of it in reality? Because this is a guy who's talked about he doesn't believe in other planets. He doesn't believe in other things. He doesn't believe in anything but the Earth because he's super religious is his reasoning. And he says the Flat Earth Society brings up a lot of valid points. Would that make a guy a no draft for you if he seems to be out of touch with reality? Or would talent let you take a guy like that?
Need to figure out how he fits into the locker room, Donkey. Okay, if he plays ball and he plays well with others,
what if he's Kyrie Irving? All right, you can win a championship if he's like a second fiddle to LeBron, but once he gets out there talking, everybody just kind of thinks he's a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
You got to be real good at that point, right? We've seen Antonio Brown get away with quite a few things throughout his time because he was legendary at football. Do you agree, Donkey?
Yeah. I just think it's funny you bring up Antonio Brown one. Jesus, dude, every other day I'm from Steelers Depot or somewhere, someone's writing a story about something that dude said. You said Antonio Brown, it made me chuckle a little.
Well, whenever you bring up cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right, that is one of those names.
Rashawn Mendenhall, yeah, it's a Steeler classic, right?
These are the guys that come to mind when you say those things. And when we're talking specifically about, would you go with the upside of the talent versus the weirdo factor? We've been through that before, Donkey.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. It's that time of year. It's NFL scouting combine. It's players to go work out in shorts. But more and more you're seeing the big-time players maybe only show up for interviews, only show up for this. But now you're seeing a huge number of NFL coaches skip the NFL combine. I think there was 5 or 6 this year. Gingy, does the combine even matter anymore? Do we care what happens in Indianapolis anymore? Does anyone care?
I think someone should care. I think I think those pro scouts should be paying attention. But Donkey, to be quite honest, I don't know. I don't know. Those metrics,
Just go to
they
pro
are
days?
they are metrics that only I don't understand how well they all translate. Right? Some of them really
Hey,
do.
Dree Archer runs really well in shorts and a t-shirt.
Of course he does. Right? But you also see guys with Quentin Nelson came out of there with like just one of the gnarliest bench presses that you've ever seen in your whole life. So pick up
Fair.
guys like that.
I hear you. Calvin Johnson's a monster, but at the end of the day, if I'm going to scout a player, don't I want to scout him at least in pads? Isn't their movement in pads what I want to see, not their movements in shorts? Like, I don't
True.
give a crap about the non-contact, but my question still is, today, we know that pads make such a difference. Why are we not testing these dudes in pads? In a helmet? It's easy to catch a football when your vision isn't impaired. Let's see if you can catch a football when you have that big helmet on your head.
I think it's just another little opportunity for the NFL to drum up a little bit of buzz and get the cameras out there and let the guys run real fast.
And watch everybody come up with their 30-second mock draft of the year. Do you remember when there used to be like one mock draft per draft expert per year? And now you have one every other day? Dude, Gingy, have you ever tried to keep up with the mock drafts that are going on right now?
No.
I think I've literally
No.
seen every player in the first round at some point mocked to the Pittsburgh Steelers because everybody and their sister has a mock draft, which trades are happening or trades aren't happening. Oh, I have my trade version and my non-trade version. I have my Justin Fields for the world and Justin Fields doesn't get traded version. I'm so confused. I'm so up and down. And I thought that 6 different times this offseason, the Steelers had Kirk Cousins, Justin Fields, and I can't think of his name now, Russell Wilson on their roster due to all this stuff that's going on that none of it pertains to anything at all.
Well, hey, Donkey, when we live in a 24/7-hour sports news cycle, right, you got to come up with content. So you can't just have one mock draft. You got to have 8. That's the only way to go.
What I want as content, though, is updates to the NFL, like how they're considering taking on what was the XFL kickoff last year. Who knows if that's the way the UFL is going to work this year. I want to hear stories about that. I want to hear about, because I think I read something, and I don't know if it's true, but I believe I read something where now you can only designate 2 players as post-June 1st cuts. Which, if you don't know, when you designate them post June 1st, essentially their money can be in the 2024 cap and into the 2025 cap if they had multiple seasons. If you cut them prior to that, the start of the new league year, it's all going into this year's cap. I think you can only designate 2 players as that now, which might lead to players getting cut later than they used to. Don't quote me on that, but I think I read that you can only designate 2 players now for that. Kind of weird that the Steelers are still out there kicking these early cuts, but clearly Omar Khan either has confidence that they're not going to sign a big name free agent, or he has confidence that he's going to free up a lot of cap space through other things. So that's what I see going on around here, Gingy. Anything you see going on around the league?
Where else are you going to free up other cap space here, Donkey? What are you talking about? Pat Pete? Talking about Allen Robinson?
How those 2 aren't cut is beyond me, but maybe we're saving them to designate them post-June 1st cuts. Or not designate them, but actually have them as post-June 1st cuts. So that their money gets carried into the next 2 seasons rather than just next year. But yeah, I'm more thinking you restructure Alex Highsmith, you restructure TJ Watt, you extend Cam Hayward, which, yeah, no, but wouldn't surprise me, right? You can move other money around too. Of course, Deontay Johnson, he's due a lot of money. You can either extend him or perhaps trade him, as I've heard a little bit of momentum gaining there. You also have the ability to move some of the cap money from Isaac Simualu, Larry Ogunjobi. There is money to be moved here, whether it's extensions, just changing money into bonuses with TJ Watt so it's due later in the contract, or just cutting people like Ogunjobi, Patrick Peterson, and Allen Robinson. But I don't know. Not much to say on that, but that's how I see the money being able to be moved, Gingy.
Options. Yeah, definite options. But still right now, even after the cap raise, 10 million over, not enough for a big
we're under.
splash.
We're
Oh,
under.
10 million under, excuse me.
There you
Yes,
go.
10
Yep.
that was my 10 million under. That's still not enough for a big splash.
No. Based off how much we paid Mitch Trubisky, I'm not even sure that's enough to bring back Mason Rudolph.
Yikes.
Oh, yeah. So, Gingy, it's nonsensical time. I want to start the offseason with something fun. We've talked about it, and I've now changed my quarterback ranking system to Jags, Nags, and Wags, which is just a guy, not a guy, and what a guy, right? So what I want to do is I want to go through the AFC, and any quarterback who started a game last year, I want to rate them in this system, and then we will proceed to rank the what a guys, the top tier guys, and the just a guys in order from top to bottom, so we can come up with a AFC ranking. Then we'll do it again with the NFC, which would be fun. I wish Lasker was here for a little bit of another voice and a tiebreaker if we get into a debate on where to put people, but I would love to start with the AFC West quarterbacks, Gingy, and it's because I think the greatest quarterback in football plays there. What you feeling? You want to play a little game?
Okay.
Game? I can't do my saw voice tonight. I'm sorry. My wife is super happy right now, though. All right, so Gingy, let's go to the AFC West. Let's go right off the bat. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes. What you rating him?
What a guy.
Yeah, what a guy, number one for me. Yeah. No doubt about it. All right, let's go down to Denver. Russell Wilson.
Ooh. I don't know, Donkey. It's just a guy, not a guy, what a guy.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
At this point.
And this is off last season, not their careers.
I was going to say, that's just a guy.
No doubt about it. I agree with you. Let's go to the Vegas Raiders. Let's start with Jimmy Garoppolo.
That's not a guy.
Not a guy. I feel he's that borderline, not a guy, just a guy. So
based off last season, just based off last season.
I am just basing it off last season. His stats weren't god awful, and that team was definitely better under Garoppolo than it was under Aiden O'Connell. And speaking of which, that's the next guy we have to go to. Aiden O'Connell. Where'd you put him?
Not a guy.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so that brings us to a fun one because of the potential in this guy. Let's go to the Chargers. Let's start at the top. Justin Herbert.
Based off last year. We know. I'm trying to recall.
He's at the top of my just a guys, but he's just a guy.
I'm trying to recall that's the Chargers passing offense, right?
It was high, like 7 yards.
Yeah, I mean, and he puts it
3
together.
3-1 touch to INT. But I mean, this is a team that was behind almost every game.
That's just a guy.
At this point, I agree. Above Russell Wilson?
Based on last year, above Russell Wilson.
Fair enough. All right. How about Easton Stick? To me, he's not a guy.
Not a guy.
And that covers the West. What division do you want to go to next, Gingy?
Easy peasy. East.
To the East? You want to start at Buffalo? You want to start with Josh Allen?
Let's do it.
All right. Where you got him?
That's probably your low end. What a guy. I can see he wins playoff games, puts it on.
Mahomes.
But below Mahomes, yes. I've been saying it since he started. Feels like Ben Roethlisberger 2.0.
Fair enough. So Ben would have had 2 Super Bowls by now, I believe. But I agree with you. Allen is he's not my last what a guy, but he is towards the bottom. I have him below Mahomes as well. So let's go to Miami. This might be an interesting one. Tua Tagovailoa. Where'd you have him?
Oh, boy. That's a mid-range just a guy at this point. I don't think
I
he.
have him
I don't
as
think you.
go.
I don't think you. I don't. You can't. I don't see how you can trust him. I don't know if you could build a franchise around him.
The team that should have set the NFL record in points if they didn't turn it off, a team that made the playoffs, and if their defense didn't lose 4 starters in the last 6 weeks, has a chance. I have Tua as my number one just a guy. I have him above Justin Herbert. So, Genji, for you, he falls below Herbert?
It's so hard to say because he's surrounded by great talent and a great system, great coaching, I feel. If you want to talk about what a guy, I feel like McDaniels down there is what a guy on the coaching end.
Fair.
But yeah, I'll stick by it. I'm saying Tua. Anywhere else, mid-range, just a guy.
So is he above Russell Wilson for you?
He is. He is above Russell Wilson. Not very high
Fair
on
enough.
Russell Wilson.
Well, let's go to New England. Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi. I have them in the same spot. Do you have either of these two out of the not a guy category?
Not a guy. Not a guy. We didn't see it last year in New England turmoil.
Now let's go, and this is going to be a fun one. Let's go over to the Jets. Boy, they had a lot of guys, but I think Trevor Siemian and Tim Boyle can just go straight to the not a guy category, right?
Yep. I'll take that.
All right, how about Zach Wilson? Can he just join them down there too?
Ooh. You believe in redemption, Donkey?
I believe last year he was not a guy.
Not a guy. Not a guy last year.
Now, this brings to the fun guy, and I understand this is like a little bit based off last year going into this year. Aaron Rodgers, where do you have him?
So what? We don't do last year, we do the year before?
You could put the year before. Essentially, based off last year and based what all you're expecting this year, where would you put him, right? So it's like last year's the heavyweight, not the whole career. But what do you expect from him this year if he was to play?
He's still in the what a guy category.
All right, I can hear you on that. I have him. Who we're talking Rodgers. All right, I have him right below Tua in just a guy, but my top end just a guys, right? I don't think he's quite the guy he used to be, but I still think he'll get it done. If you're curious, that puts it Tua, Rodgers, Herbert are my top 3 just a guys.
Mm-hmm.
So we got 2 more divisions to go, Gingy. Where'd you want to head? North or south, I guess. You want to stay cold or go hot?
South.
All right.
Need some warmth.
Let's start at the bottom of the South. Let's start with the Tennessee Titans. Ryan Tannehill, not a guy right now, or is he just a guy for you?
Just a guy. I think he's functional, but not outstanding.
I have him tied with Jimmy Garoppolo as my literal bottom of just a guy, so I can't argue with you there. How about Will Levis? What do you think of Will Levis?
Just a guy.
Me too. Here's the question I have. Is Will Levis above Russell Wilson?
They're neck and neck, and I think that's where I say no. I think that's the line.
Okay.
Russell Wilson.
Then Will Levis.
Slightly over Will Levis.
We go to Jacksonville. We go ahead and we have I know CJ Beathard played some, but we're not really going to throw him in there unless you want to. But to me, he'd fit the not a guy one with all the other backups who really didn't do much. Trevor Lawrence for you. Where does he fit in if you're calling him? To me, he's a Jag, man. He's a pretty boy Jag.
Top 3 or 4 just a guys, but potential. Donkey, if the Jacksonville isn't as so dang dysfunctional, they seem like one of them squads that just can't get it together.
their offense was stacked, and people wanted to make fun of Kenny Pickett for not a great year. This is a dude who only threw 21 touchdowns to 14 interceptions on that Jaguars team. I mean, and that's with a great running game they had in there with ETN. I have him just above Russell Wilson. So you said towards the top. Is that above Tua? Below Tua?
Below Tua.
Okay, we can agree on that. That's fair. Indianapolis, we're gonna go two guys here, and we're gonna go the guy who to me ties with Will Levis because I have no idea what to say with him. But to me, Anthony Richardson is a Jag, and he's right at that Will Levis tier.
Oh, that's tough. I saw some dynamic plays, but also some rookie plays. You know what I mean?
His accuracy, he's just too inaccurate for me to put him up there.
He's really got some wheels on him, though, Donkey. Super wheels.
He does. These are supreme
just
athlete.
A guy until I determine otherwise.
So, just a guy in the Russell Wilson, Trevor Lawrence tier, or below that tier?
Ooh, it's tough to say based on those 5 games, but yeah, more in the Trevor Lawrence tier.
Okay. I'll make an arrow up here for Richardson for the later ones there. Gardner Minshew, Gingy. I have Gardner Minshew right with Russell Wilson.
I think that's your epitome of just a guy. That is the classic. That is when you look up just a guy, doesn't fall too high, too low. One-time Pro Bowler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because 10,000 guys don't go. We go to Houston here. We have Case Keenum and Davis Mills. Can we just throw them in the not a guy category, or are you a fan of either of those backups?
Not a guy.
Okay. CJ Stroud is my bottom wagster, Gingy. What do you think of CJ Stroud?
What a guy. Based on last year alone, right? Rookie season.
My.
Come out the gate
Rookie
hot.
records be spanked by this guy.
Come out the gate hot and won a playoff game.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's special.
He certainly did. Above Josh Allen, above Aaron Rodgers, where do you see him?
Yes and yes, based on last season.
Ooh, all right, you got him higher than me. I love that. That leaves us the AFC North. We'll go ahead and we'll start with the Browns. So the guys we're going to throw out here, because they only had, 10,000 different quarterbacks. But Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Jeff Driscoll, and P.J. Walker, can we just throw them in the not a guy category?
Yep.
All right. Deshaun Watson, where does he fit for you? Because with me, he's tied at my bottom of not a guy with Jimmy G and Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, he's bottom just a guy based on last year. He did not. Browns did better with Joe Flacco than they did with Deshaun Watson.
Where the hell does Joe Flacco fit, Gingy?
Based on what we saw last year coming in the clutch, that is a
wag move out of a Jag, right?
That's what I was going to say. That is just a guy who had a wag end of the season. Really outperformed himself.
Where would you throw? To me, Flacco goes right under Russell Wilson, right above, near Will Levis, is where I would put him. Is that a fair spot for Flacco to find himself?
It's fair.
All right. So that moves us to Cincinnati. We have some funness here. Jake Browning, by the way, to me showed enough to be put in that very bottom of just a guy, just outside of not a guy territory. Jimmy G, Ryan Tannehill, Deshaun Watson, Jake Browning.
Nope, not a guy.
Not a guy?
Okay. Not a guy.
Joe Burrow, where does he fit for you?
That's so tough. Bad. He was not playing really that great consistently before the injury last season. They had a a rough start and then maybe a glimpse or two of one or two games while he was still in, if I recall, before he got injured. Like there was just a glimpse of maybe the Bengals starting to do Bengal things later in the season, but that's tough to say. He's okay. I'm thinking if Joe Burrow was in there, the Bengals season wouldn't have went 8-8. He's still bottom end. What a guy!
Remember, though, the Bengals I don't think they had a winning record with Burrow this year, did they? I believe they were 5-5 in games that Joe Burrow started.
Mm-hmm.
So don't quote me on that. But really, when the Bengals season went down is when DJ Reader got hurt. I have to say, I think Joe Burrow, based off last year and based off the things that are going, I haven't seen him elevate his team. And really, he's surrounded by supreme talent. And when that running game took a hit like it did this year, he wasn't able to carry them. I have him in my Jag category because what a guy to me is a guy who could be a top 10 percenter in the league, which is a starting quarterback. That means you're what, top 3 or 4? Mm-hmm. I have him as just a guy, and I have him just behind Justin Herbert.
I'm not going to argue with it.
We'll put him in just a guy for now, and we'll get to rating him later. Let's go to Baltimore. Of course, we know Tyler Huntley started some games, but he's not a guy, is he?
Not a guy.
And then we have MVP Lamar Jackson. Gingy, is it fair to call him a wag? I call him my number 2 wag, right behind Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, given last season, that's probably your stats wag for sure, and probably your number 2 overall quarterback.
He made the championship game as well. That can't be overlooked.
Yeah, I'll overlook it.
And I believe his team was a bigger threat to Kansas City than any of the other teams I watched play. So,
yeah, there is that. I agree with that.
All right, let's get to the Pittsburgh Steelers here. This is the one everybody's waited for. I'm glad you left him for last. Mitch Trubisky, can we just call him not a guy? He is
not a guy. And a half. He's out of there. Not a guy.
He is a big nag. So then I have Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph in the same exact group, and they're with Jimmy G, Ryan Tannehill, Deshaun Watson, and for me, Jake Browning. I don't see any reason to put Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph above that group. I don't think either of them showed anything that puts them above that group for me.
Based on last year alone, yes, both just a guy. With Mason Rudolph,
to me, borderline not a guy.
Kenny Pickett, borderline not a guy. Got to see him in a really dysfunctional offense, right? Matt Canada led. Performed a little bit better after that before the injury. But Mason Rudolph 3-0. Game, yeah. Mason Rudolph 3-0, knocking off the end of the season there. That's tough to deny as well.
Yeah, it's never bad to beat some backup quarterbacks. And then he got to the playoffs. And the reason, okay, if we just had the last 3 games, Mason Rudolph's higher for me. The thing that kills me on Mason Rudolph is the thing I've always questioned with him was his intensity and the game understanding, right? That's, to me, I've always thought he was the best deep passer in the Steelers. I said that. I always thought arm talent-wise he should be the starter. My biggest question was he doesn't seem like the brightest football guy, and I'm not trying to be mean here. But watch the end of that Buffalo game. We have 4 minutes to go, and this dude is throwing 5-yard checkdowns to a guy who has a guy on top of him for a tackle. He just... That killer instinct, that killer vibe, I just don't get it from him. And the reason Kenny Pickett is still just a guy for me is because the one thing Kenny Pickett has shown his whole NFL career is that ability to end things, that ability to play with that tenacity that you want. I just don't see it from Mason Rudolph, and that's really why I have issue putting him anywhere else. And when you look at the stats, he led 3 decent offensive performances. Actually, one good offensive performance was led because of Mason Rudolph. The Seattle game, we ran for almost 1.5 billion yards. So when you really look at it, Mason Rudolph as a passer had one really good game. I mean, his completion percentage in Baltimore was fantastic, but Baltimore was resting their starters, and we didn't break the 20-point threshold. You know, if that was Kenny Pickett, the Steelers fans would have had his head for it. But because it was Mason Rudolph, we're giving him all the props in the world. And I'm not giving props to Kenny Pickett. Don't take that the wrong way. I'm just saying I feel we overhyped this here. And Gingy, to end this, I want you to talk about why you have him up a little higher. But to end this, did you hear the story that the Pittsburgh Steelers receivers were actually running the routes they're supposed to and actually playing hard after Mitch Trubisky got benched?
Sounds interesting.
I heard that is the reason the wide receivers coach got let go, is because the receivers didn't play hard all year until Trubisky got benched.
That's not good, Donkey.
No. And when you hear what Deontay Johnson said, it's very believable, because what he said is, of course we're going out there and giving our all for Mason Rudolph. We believe in him, and he deserved a shot, so of course we're doing our best. Why the hell are you not doing your best every day?
That's weird, Donkey. I don't know why.
Yeah, and think about it. The only position coach that hasn't been retained thus far was the wide receivers coach, Gingy. There's smoke, there's frickin' fire, is what I was always taught. Problems in Steeler land? Maybe. But defend to me why Mason Rudolph should get that tier above this, say, this Jimmy G. What makes you put him there?
Coming in the clutch, put in a tough position in a big spot, really seemed to have command and presence over the team. Wasn't really consistently there with Kenny Pickett. I don't think to me it seemed like Mason Rudolph had the locker room, but I don't know if that necessarily means that he has a higher ceiling or better QB overall. But
I hear what you're saying, but Kenny Pickett, don't forget,
in a tough spot, like not getting the reps, coming in late in the season.
Don't forget the 2 games Kenny Pickett played without. Let's be honest here. Let's call Kenny Pickett after Matt Canada, okay? Because no one was playing that Matt Canada thing. It is what it is. But don't forget those 2 halves. Kenny Pickett wasn't trailing ever in those 2 halves. That offense was clicking a lot better than it had been all year. Now, they didn't finish at a high rate, but let's be honest here. Mason Rudolph only finished at a high rate in 1 game. So I hear what you're saying. I mean, yeah, he won all 3 games, but Kenny Pickett also never trailed post Matt Canada. You know, when we had competent, not good, competent play calling. That's just where I can't make that jump, is because when I put on the game tape, did Mason Rudolph make some plays that just were wow? Or did Deontay Johnson take a quick slant 80 yards for a touchdown? You know, it's the Tua debate, right? Is Tua a really good quarterback, or did the wide receivers make plays?
Right.
And that's where I stand. But I think we have a pretty good basis here. Let's go ahead. Let's get to the what a guy category. Let's put these guys in order. No doubt Mahomes number 1.
Yep.
Lamar Jackson number 2, or do we have some debate here?
No, I don't think so. Not for me.
All right. I know you like C.J. Stroud here. I like Josh Allen here in the 3 spot. Shinji, this is your chance. Make your argument. Why is C.J. Stroud number 3? Or is it Aaron Rodgers for you? I quite don't remember.
No, it's C.J. Stroud here for me, and I think that rookie season, unproven talent. I know that we're not talking about previous seasons, just last season, Donkey. But so what? I've seen so much of Josh Allen. I've heard so much of the Bills are going to do this. Don't get me wrong. I'd take him on the Steelers roster, right? I think he has. I think he has potential. I've seen skill, right? Maybe there's room for development there later in the career. I don't know, but right now, C.J. Stroud come out the gate and electrified. Breathed life into an offense that you really didn't expect to be going much of anywhere this year, right? Maybe the defense, but this Texans team was supposed to be a full rebuild, and they're winning playoff games, don't we?
When you drill a draft like that, it helps a lot. I'm going to counter you with this, and this is the reason. Josh Allen just can't beat Patrick Mahomes. You take that out of the way. Remember, this is why, to me, Josh Allen's above C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud playing the AFC South, that division sucked. Josh Allen at one point had a murderer's row of games, if you recall. It was like Dallas, Philadelphia, Kansas City, I think, was in it. There's just this murderer's row. They're on the 11th seed, Gingy. They're the 11th seed in the AFC. And Josh Allen just said, we're not freaking losing another football game. And that team ended up as the 2 seed. Or is it the 3 seed? The 2 or 3 seed is the 3 seed because they had to. No, Josh Allen had to go on the road, or Mahomes had to go on the road. So they end up as the 2 seed, right? The 2 seed in the AFC, they started December as like the 11th seed. That right there is what a quarterback needs to do. And he has a more big track record than CJ Stroud. I love CJ Stroud. I loved what he did. Amazing quarterback play. But, man, the carry Josh Allen put on this year is the reason I have to have Josh Allen above him. So that gets to the next spot. In the 3 spot, I guess the real debate here is, where do you have Aaron Rodgers? Because are you going to debate why Aaron Rodgers is above Josh Allen, or do you have Aaron Rodgers below Josh Allen?
Below Josh Allen.
Okay, fair enough. So this is what's going to come down to. Do you have Aaron Rodgers above the next group of 3 in any order? Tua, Herbert, and Burrow, right? Is the next 3 for me as those guys. Do you have Rodgers above them, right? Because he was your last what a guy?
Yes.
All right. My argument against you is going to be for Tua, Herbert, and Burrow is, one, Burrow's been more successful recently than Aaron Rodgers, and they're both coming off injuries. I'll take the younger guy. The other 2, Herbert has the arm talent Aaron Rodgers had. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers at 40 still has the mobility and the ability to take a hit that Justin Herbert does. And for Tua, look at what the Miami Dolphins did. That offense was unstoppable. Here's your chance. Make your case. Why is Aaron Rodgers above him?
Football IQ, in my opinion, ability to lead a unit. Automatically, I think that he's almost one of these legacy guys now, like Tom Brady, who can attract other talent, possibly. And I don't think those other guys are those legacy guys yet. I don't think they're going to.
I don't know. That Jets roster is pretty devoid of talent, and that was showcased.
Yeah, I don't think they're willing to cater to Rodgers' needs the way the Packers were.
He left the Packers because the Packers apparently never would get the receivers Aaron Rodgers wanted. So I don't know. I hear why you have him there, but I guess we'll go into this next group of 4 because to me these are the guys you had or we had. We'll let Rodgers go above this group because he's Aaron Rodgers, and I'm going to let him go above this group, but he's not getting a WAG title. He can start the Jag column. Tua, Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, I think they all just kind of clump together, and really differentiating them is silly. But, Gingy, is there anyone from that group that sticks out to you? Like, as should be not in that group of guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Tua, Herbert, yes. Trevor Lawrence, probably not at their level.
But we'll put him at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
But you had him above Minshew and Wilson. So that's the next group, really. You have Minshew, you have Wilson, you have Flacco. To me, you have Richardson and Levis below them, but I know you said you'd have Richardson above Wilson. Is there really any differentiating in that group of guys for you in terms of, yeah, they're clearly a step out of this group or clearly a step below this group?
No, I don't think so. That's all sounds about right to me.
All right, so let's get to the border guys. I called these the just a guys, bordering not a guy. That's Jimmy Garoppolo, Ryan Tannehill, Deshaun Watson, to me, Jake Browning, but you threw him down to not a guy, so we'll throw him out. Kenny Pickett, and to me, Mason Rudolph. Anyone should be different in that? Is there anyone who should be kicked out of the just a guy group, or is there anyone who should be, firmly cemented in the just a guy group?
Firmly cemented. No, I don't think so, Donkey. I'm not reiterating.
Fair.
I'm not changing
fair
my
enough.
mind.
Gingy, that means next week we got to go to the NFC And spoiler alert, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of what guys in the NFC, Gingy, just from my take. Unfortunately, it means you're going to be a little more prepared for it, so not quite as nonsensical. But this is me essentially wrapping up, Gingy. Is there anything else that we should talk about before we get to potential shout outs, let's say?
I think I'm good with it, Donkey. That was fairly nonsensical.
Certainly was the start of it for sure, as there is no formulation to it. Gingy, do you have a shout out this week, just out of curiosity?
I do.
Yes, I figured. Go ahead and hit it, because I think I know where we're going.
You're going the same place too. Shout out to longtime Steelers radio, Bill Hillgrove, retired this week after 30 years with the Steelers. I still think he's going to stay on with Pitt, I believe.
Yes, he's staying with Pitt from my understanding, yep.
But retiring from the Steelers call, what a legend, Donkey.
For sure, and
that's always going to be one of the voices that I associate with Steelers football. Shout out and thank you to Bill Hillgrove.
Just a loss of Steeler voices recently has been crazy. At least this one's a retirement and not a death. That's always a little easier, a little easier for everybody because it's not sudden and unexpected. But you know what? Just the same way when Savin went, man, great voice, a voice you recognize, voice you know. Gingy sent me the pictures of the retirement thing, and it showed him with freaking Copacabana, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I hate that guy's voice. And by that, of course, I mean Myron Cope. His voice, it's such a Steeler thing, but bro, listening to those guys growing up, it was something. I'll say that, and it was enjoyable. That was going to be my shout out. I knew you were going to take it, so I'm going to give a shout out to the Pirates rookie guy dating Olivia Dunn. Paul Skeens getting a huge strikeout of another first-round pick in his spring training debut, so kudos to him. I guess this time I got to let you know I'm the Viking Donkey. It's Viking_Donkey on Twitch or Twitter. Yo, Daily Dose of Donkey with Ginger's YouTube channel where you get all this fun, nonsensical talk. Be sure to tune in. We're going to try to keep it more as a chatty environment and off the cusp. We're going to talk about probably one subject every week, but that's going to be after we just have a random talk of football stuff. So who knows? You might get a 10-minute episode. You might get an hour-long episode because we're just trying to let you into the thought process. You want to come join the conversation, hit us up with a message. Let us know. Also, let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about going forward into the future. Gingy, it's the off season, but you still get to send us out.
Woo! Mutant Gingy in the house, talking nonsensical. We like football. But it is the off season, so we'll continue chatting about it next week, folks. Wave 'em if you got 'em.